Let me snap out of it.
I know, I'm just trying to fuck with
Let's
love
call
it,
it
man.
black and gray. Now, think about the impact. People don't see the weight because they think it always was. It wasn't.
That's something we were looking into you guys last night, and that really stood out to me because so many people are chasing the like and the attention on social media, and you guys are fucking in the arena doing it, and whoever fucking sees it sees it, you know. And I relate to that a lot, you know. Kind of stay in your bubble and just do the best you fucking can at your craft. And listening to you guys, I definitely see many areas where I've fallen short, you know, or just kind of tucked things to the side and just kept focusing on just the tattoo itself and not the tools, you know. And there's definitely a lot of areas that I'm fucking really inspired to dig into and really fucking know my shit, you know. Because I do think that in a world of tattooers where it's just really easy just to pick up and duplicate something off Procreate, you know, there's
It
another
is.
layer there that
But where does that start? It starts with your artistic ability. And don't forget that you can draw. Because I have people that have worked at my shop and still work at my shop that have problems without their Procreate. And they wonder why I'm sitting there and I'm tattooing and I don't even use those pads. Because I know that I can take a pen and I can draw whatever fuck is missing from the stencil, or I can draw without a stencil because I know how to draw. See what I'm saying? This is
100%.
all self-contained. You don't need that shit. It might speed up certain things, but so does this, and so does this.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Well, and nobody can take anything from you either.
Now with the AI, draw me a picture of a Viking, camel, whatever the fuck combinations you want to make in the thing, it'll make the motherfucker up for you. Now look, everything's getting taken away from human performance. You register, you sign up, you're part of that. I don't want to sign up, and I still got clients who don't even know what they're going to get when they come in. I don't even know what they're going to get when they come in. They just trust me to draw it up. They look at the pen scribbles and go for it because they know it's going to be gnarly. I know it's going to be gnarly. I don't know what the fuck it's going to look like, but it turns out really gnarly and sometimes gnarlier than I expected it to be.
Yeah.
But let's just also go back for a second on machines and industry and suppliers. So we've got 6 international patents on stuff, which, you'd think that, to write a patent is pretty gnarly. The issue of having patents is secondary. It's an achievement and it documents and it puts out there into the public what we did. And then no one can take that idea because that's our intellectual property. Anybody who takes that is blatantly stealing, right? But we had suppliers that were carrying our stuff when we were building machines all the time. We had 25 suppliers, okay? Not at one time. They started out in the beginning was a few, and then little by little there was more and there was more. It wasn't that they wanted to carry it all at once. We had a 40-point contract, and we said, if you guys breach any one of these points, we're firing you, right? And little by little, they all were breaching 1 point or 2 points, and we had to stick to our guns, and we had to let them go. What are we doing? We're forfeiting money, but what are we doing? We're protecting our reputation. Because when we tell them, we're going to sell to you, but you can't be selling Chinese. We don't want the association. We want the association with selling quality products. Okay, you're selling dynamic black. You're selling the colors that we support. You might be selling loose needles by the companies that we endorse, right? So little by little, we find out this one guy is selling machines to people, not our machines, but other people's machines. He's taking them back and reselling them after they tried them, didn't like them. But we don't know if these guys are putting bags on their machines and they're cross-contaminated and selling fucking hepatitis to somebody else over here in New York. So pretty soon, we didn't have any more suppliers. See how gnarly that is? But after we wrote the book and, it went illegally all over the internet, we didn't stop and think, fuck, we lost all that money, because the phone calls were coming in from people that really did have a demand for the seminar. We've been to South Africa several times. We've done Europe over and over and over teaching tattoo machines. Everything from through the US, Canada, Germany, from the US border all the way down to the tip of South America. All those countries, we've hit those countries doing seminars, which is pretty gnarly.
Fuck yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So, you know, we got a call one time from a guy from a major supplier, and he says, "Hey, we want to carry your machines." "Oh yeah, who's this?" "This is so-and-so from this tattoo supplier." And we said, "Oh yeah, do you tattoo?" "No, I don't tattoo, but I sold $5 million worth of product last year." We're like, "Well, how are you selling something that you don't understand?" "Well, just tell me what to say." I can't tell you what to say. If they have questions for you and then you can't answer the questions, you're going to reflect on us, and they're going to say, Godoy sold to this guy who's representing them who doesn't understand what the fuck he's talking about. You know, we don't have any money, man.
I hope this is interesting and fun and rad that you see where we're coming from, because this has to be
really is,
an influential thing to fellow tattooers. We don't care about new people getting into it because we know they're not going to give a fuck. They want to plug it in and they want to start drilling their buddies and have their cool reputation. But this is like something that if somebody who was really into tattooing listened to it and thought, this is really inspiring to me, because I want to dig into what am I doing? Did I come in a blank generation, the hollow generation? Or do I want to put this stuff under my belt? Do I want to learn about machines? Do I want to learn about fucking making needles? Even if I don't use them, even if I like better results, why don't I just put that as my arsenal to give me clout? It's like these people that I'm an undergrad. I got extracurricular education
In the
and all
Art
this bullshit.
Institute of wherever, you know.
I am a graphic designer. Who cares? You know, I make needles. I fucking tattoo every style. I don't care. That's where it really stands in tattoo, because you want to have some clout, you know, just for yourself. I mean, just for yourself. It's like, you know, it's pretty important stuff. There was something I was just going to say. I forget what the fuck it was.
You want to think on it while I say something else?
Yeah.
So people think that everything this always was. And now you're starting to see, and I hope you're starting to see the value of where we came from and the beginnings of our start, which was at the end of a whole nother generation, which was quite a different era. To carry on, the ethics of it is very important. To have the knowledge of the tools that you're using is very important. To be able to create those tools and modify those tools to suit your needs is very important, because at the end, the client is the most important. They're the most important. You refine your techniques to be able to do everything when they come in through the door, because you got to pay for the entity that supports you, the shop. When people are sitting in my shop and they're just, oh, he'll just pay the bills. And I'm like, sit the fuck down. You were on a fucking 10-minute break. You're on the client's time. They're not on your time. The fuck are you doing? Get over there and handle it. How long is it taking you to set up? 45 minutes? Why are you taking 45 minutes? This guy's been sitting here. See what I'm saying? These are ethics and this is performance, and it's not just about the money, because when people come in and they want to get tattooed by me and they're like, sorry, man, I only got don't worry about it. Let's do the finished product. Let's handle it now so you can go home stoked. And I know that I've put 100% of effort. Even if I lost this much money, I know this guy's going to come back and he's going to tell all his fucking friends. And even if you don't like the motherfucker, sooner or later, by the end of it, you do your job with a smile on your face and that guy becomes your pal.
Yeah.
See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Very important. Now, the other thing is, things didn't always was, right? Everything you see now wasn't always was. It's different now. It's a lot different now because everything is gone. But you've seen that documentary, and it's all about black and gray. It talks about the beginning of prison tattooing. It talks about Jack Rudy.
The Tattoo Nation?
Tattoo Nation.
Yeah.
Right? I always forget the name of that movie. Anyway, when you watch that movie, and even when you watch the little documentary about Zeke Owens, and we've met Zeke Owens, he's great. He was really fucking cool. And all these old guys, from the inception of all this stuff. Okay, so people glamorize traditional like we discussed. Everybody thinks that it has a formula. It doesn't have a formula. Back then, they didn't have a formula. Their goal was to get these guys off the boat, tattoo as many as we can, make some fucking money, send them on their way. They had a bucket with the slop rag and a bucket with the clean rag. And who knows what they were transmitting. They didn't give a fuck. They didn't try to perfect the art. Not all of them did. Some of them did. Zeke Owen was a little bit more advanced than some. Then you move up to Greg Irons, who was working on single needle stuff and fine line stuff. Then it started crossover with the Chicano stuff. So when you see in that movie and you see Ed Hardy, And this always fucking chokes me up because you can't see the heaviness of this. I don't know if you can, but I can, and I know he can. And when he goes to Freddie Negretti, he goes, Freddie, your technique of lines, single needle lines, sharpened single needle lines. And you snap out of it.
I know. I'm just trying to fuck with.
Let's
love
call
it,
it
man.
black and gray. Now, think about the impact. People don't see the weight because they think it always was, but it wasn't. That statement paved the way for so much shit, not just in the ability to take those needles and sharpen those single needles and do that detail, but to do the black and gray in huge patches influenced so many. I feel like so dumb crying about this
Nah,
shit.
dude, it's fucking.
But
It's
this
awesome,
is where
man.
we fucking came from. This is where we fucking came from. And to see that to us was like, that's what we want. See what I'm saying? This isn't something that's just throwaway. It's not throwaway. This is something that we've dedicated our lives to and something that we know can keep on going. And that there are people out there who want to keep it going in this way and understand it and perfect it and keep it alive because it's more functional now and we need this now more than we ever have. When there's kids in their houses who were learning during COVID and they're telling their parents, I want a tattoo kit. And they're saturating the industry with incompetence and laziness and ignorant tattooing instead of striving for goals of going, I want to be able to master every technique and I want to be able to master the tools that I have. And if I can't find the fucking tools, I'm going to make my fucking tools. If I got to sharpen needles, I'll sharpen needles. See what I'm saying? And this is the specialness of this business that we're in. See? I don't really know what else to say about it.
Man, yeah, I've never seen someone speak about it so passionately, and I think that it's exactly what we're missing, 100%. Yeah, it's just too easy, and it's not taken nearly to the level of seriousness that it should be, because we are fucking market people for the rest of our lives, and
we change their lives, man. We make magic. When we get these ladies come in who have mastectomies from cancer, we're tattooing realistic nipples on these chicks.
yeah.
They go to the mirror and they fucking start crying because they feel like they've got themselves back. Just the visual of that and the psychological aspect of that. Right? Doing memorials for friends who've passed. All the stuff that we do is magic. It's not always the tattoos. Sometimes it's the experience, just coming in and talking shit. So we also have a degree in psychology, not by our own nature, but when, I get some people coming in, like I get people that are in mental hospitals for fucking 9 years and that motherfucker's never getting out, but he gets out on a day pass and I make his day and he goes, thanks, Art. I really love you, bro. You really made my day and I'll see you in hell. And then he fucking walks out.
See you now.
I kill 880,000 vampires, and I think my doctor's a vampire. And I'm like, Shane, what are you going to do about that doctor, man? Why is he still alive? You know what I mean?
Right.
You go along with them, but you make their day,
Yeah.
It's fucking great, the shit we do. It's magic.
That it is. That it is. Man. I again, dude, I'm so glad you guys are on here. So I think that you hear a lot of older tattooers preaching a lot of this stuff, but it's not perceived well by the younger generation. And I think that this stuff's it's exactly what we need, man. I would love to, if you guys still have that book available, I would love to read that. I would love to read that.
I think you with who you are and how cool you seem to be, I think the seminar would be better for you.
Yeah, I'm down.
If we could do a seminar,
Down
people
for
would
sure.
shit their pants. It's an all-day workshop. You bring your shit. We cut springs. You diagnose and tune immediately on the spot. And there's no reason why people couldn't leave there going, I could build my own shit.
Yeah.
And fuck this industry. I'm gonna make my own shit.
Yeah. Well, I'd much rather learn from you gentlemen than have learned from the guy I apprenticed under. You know. Yeah, that'd be fucking awesome. That'd be awesome.
Be fucking badass.
Man. And this has all just been a lesson to me, you know, because like I said, I don't tattoo. And, you know, we've watched like Tattoo Nation. I've gotten to know a lot of tattooers, but really it's like as a social media guy, just what's, you know, available to me. But, you know, there's just not so much for me to grab at to learn about these things. You know what I mean?
Because who's going to teach you?
Yeah, that's
Right.
right.
The important thing is, until you start doing it, you don't appreciate and you can't relate, and you will never be on the same page as those old guys. But just because they're old guys doesn't mean that they're old guys and obsolete. You got to know that. You got to know that and appreciate that.
Yeah. Well, and not having the knowledge, you know how many times I've talked to someone who does, and in my head I'm like, man, I'm not on the same page. Is this guy going to respect what I do? Do I, you know, can I stand next to this person even slightly deserving, because I don't know certain aspects that if he got on this topic, I'd be up Shit's Creek, you know?
But you know what's rad is you rip. Your work is radical. We were just talking about us and Brian. He's like, have you seen his work? I'm like, yeah, fucking ripping. It's ripping.
Thanks.
Imagine if you had that in your arsenal, like, and no one knew you're a total fucking sleeper, but you know how to make needles. You can weave mags. You can make fucking rounds. You can do whatever, you know, everything you needed to know. And you could tune coil machines. People would go, where the fuck did this guy come from? For you, which would be a kick in everybody's pussy.
Yeah.
This day with all these fucking clowns with the identity crisis, they'd go, where the fuck did he come from?
Well, and then
You
I
know what
would
I
be
mean?
able to pass that down. You know?
Yeah.
I think that I would love to play more of a role in that, you know, because I'm on the same page. There's a lot of people tattooing that shouldn't be fucking tattooing, or at least and maybe there should be more of this information out there so we can help educate these people coming in some way, you know, to help garner that respect or that true craftsmanship. Because outside of you guys, I wouldn't even know where to get this information.
Man, you know what's impossible is how do you reel these people in? How do you bring them in and go, look, man, we're going to fucking start our own, it's a private membership association. This is how we operate. We don't sign up for business license. We don't get a business license from the city. We don't go get a bloodborne pathogen because we're self-regulating. I can write my own bloodborne pathogen, make my own certificate. I can do a private membership association where we don't have to sign up and register to do anything with the city. Fuck you. In fact, what's the city comes knocking at the door? What's it say out front? Members only. That means that this contract has nothing to do with you, right? So that's the only way you could bring it in. Okay, let's bring it. Let's write up a private membership association where everybody comes in. The information is discussed only within members that were in this thing. Let's build a network. We know Joe so-and-so in Philly. We know the Godoys out here on the East Coast of the United States. We know so-and-so Superfly down in Guanajuato. All these people know each other, but they're on the same page because they all know the same info. Could you imagine? You start this shit all up again. I'm gonna go tattoo down at Super's place or Harry Tattoo Studio in Uruguay. You know, all these people that we know are Diego Morales out in fucking Spain, and so we got this network of everybody on the same page that knows the same shit, that respects the tattoo craft the same way. So now you got something that people want to be a part of. That's the only way that would be enticing.
Yeah.
If you have something that was so cool where everybody would go, wait a minute, I've already been tattooing in a couple years and this is what I'm missing in my fucking life.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. All that fertilizer you're sprinkling on would be sprinkled on fertile soil because they want it. They're going to this place to seek it versus trying to shove it down someone's throat who care fucking less.
Yeah. And since it's private, it's only just held with amongst its members. Now you're bringing it back to the way it was with National Tattoo. You couldn't get supplies unless you were a member or friends of a member. You know, or recommendation. It could easily be done, especially now with the networking available online. You could scan everybody. You could vet them. Don't let them in your circle. Fuck them. You know, seminar available, so-and-so. Let's all meet in Chicago on the 12th of June. Fuck yeah. Let's go. We'll all rub elbows with each other, fucking eat dinner, fucking talk shit, and start a whole new group, a whole new association of great shit. Wash our hands. I was thinking about doing a convention. I'm not even going to mention the name of it, but a convention of just people that are in the membership club,
Yeah.
you know, and everybody just goes there.
Yeah.
Don't have to
that'd
pay
be
for
rad.
shit. Just do shit. Just cool shit.
Yeah, that'd
Totally
be rad.
different.
That'd be rad.
Yeah, be cool if you had the time to do it, to network it.
I know the Dayton tattoo culture. I feel like there's a lot of guys that would be fucking head over heels for something like that. You know.
We'll go anywhere, anytime. If there's a demand, we're stoked. We're stoked to do it.
Oh.
What keeps? I mean, maybe this is a dumb question because you guys are spilling your hearts right now. 40 years in the tattoo industry, you know, but the fire is still so lit, you know. Why? I guess. And maybe that's a dumb question because I could tell. You know?
Financially, we don't have a choice.
But
You know?
beyond that, it's like if you're gonna do something, you got to do it the best that you can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Right.
we're good at we're good at a lot of shit, you know, especially stuff having to do with art. We're good at a lot of shit, but this is like, I mean, 40 years doing it, that's like a whole nother, like a lifetime.
That's
It's like a fucking
10
lifetime. So
That's
you
11
can't really
years
just,
older than I am.
Right.
you can't wash your
Yeah.
hands of it. Really, you can't
Yeah.
just like throw it away, you know, put it
Yeah.
aside. Even if some days are trying and you don't want to, but you think, well, fuck, man, I think I got it better than so-and-so working it in and out.
100%.
You know?
I use
Right.
that a lot, man. I think about that a lot to help keep me in
Shit.
check, man.
There was another thing that I remember when I forgot what I was going to say, and it had to do with machines. Was so we build our machines. They're unique looking. They're cool. Everything about the function, the coils, everything. And what we did when we sold our machines, we're like, no one had this warranty. Nobody. Limited tuning and replacement of parts, and for the life of as long as we live. You pay $600 for a machine. You need new springs, you send it in, we replace the springs. You just pay shipping one way, we pay shipping the other way. So that was when Art was talking about the industry and how people were selling our shit, right? So if they were selling it, we couldn't honor a warranty. But otherwise, if you had a machine and you're like, hey, I bought this 10 years ago, you do a tune-up on it, replace the coil covers with some rad color PVC shrink, no problem, send it in. So we had the best, most ultimate warranty ever. So it wasn't just to sell machines, but to show integrity, because we're not dummies, you know? And we will honor, like, oh, you're proud of using that machine? Well, we're proud of fucking replacing the parts for you.
It's fucking
Along
awesome.
with that, we had a pretty gnarly team of people that we sponsored.
It was like skateboard teams. Like, we'd sponsor them, give them 5 machines, free machines a year, power supplies, 1 a year.
Yep. It was fucking radical. And we'd make their own model machines. There was a girl named Dakota. She had her own. It's in the box. Want to show this shit?
This was the Nakota Garza model. Now, when you look at this thing, look at the coils. The tops are hearts, little hearts. Look at the machining and the versatility of adjustment on this thing.
That's fucking rad.
And look at the yoke at the bottom. The yoke is basically a frame.
The tops of the coils reflect where the magnetic field, the pull is going to be.
And double capacitor.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You're cleaning the current as it goes towards the upper binding post and the lower binding post. So we're not going to let anything out right now about the capacitance. It's a pretty important and major function in the machine.
Sure.
It's like if I said to you, man, you know what? I got a Cadillac for you, but this Cadillac has a Volkswagen motor in it. That's the 47 microfarad capacitor with fucking 22 volts, which everybody copies each other. Well, someone might say, well, I got 47 at 35, save it. That's a fucking piece of shit. That's like a fucking Volkswagen motor pulling a Cadillac body. But on top of that, when you start adding larger groupings, you know, you start adding the tension from the rubber band or 2 rubber bands like all these guys use. What's going to happen then? Your capacitor is going to overheat because it's got a heat rating on the side. It's going to go pop like a fucking, you know, like a fucking firecracker.
I always use 2 rubber bands when I use coils. I scrubbed tubes for like 2 years. When I first got in, I used coils for probably the first 5. But my biggest complaint was always like, it'll run perfect one day and it won't run right the next day. But I'm realizing all the micro adjustments that need to be done if I'm running a little bit thicker line, a little bit thinner line, if I'm packing a little bit bigger mag. But this is a beauty. This is a
Keep going
beauty.
about the people that little swastika.
Yeah, so we some of the people that we had on the team were pretty gnarly. There was a guy named Little Swastika. He was from Germany. Imagine that. But he's a total peace-loving hippie, but he's really fucking gnarly.
And he skates too, so he was
Him and his
totally
crew
cool.
are all about body mods, and when he'd do a back piece, it involved 4 people's backs. So you see this giant black shit coming down, patterns and colors. He's got his eyes colored different colors. He would go and do grinds around his little bowl and just his socks just ripping with fucking snow outside. He had his own compound. If you look up Psyland, P-S-Y-L-A-N-D, that's the group. And he was so gnarly, we're like, we'll make you a machine. We'll make you your own model machine. When they get their own model machines, they get royalty checks for everything that was sold. How it was in skateboarding. We would, get $2 each per deck with our names on the decks. And all the companies would do that. We would do the same thing for them because they were professionals. And these guys were looked up and they were the gnarliest in their area. We had a guy, Axel Lopez, who was in Caracas, Venezuela. He was gnarly. Javier Campos in Peru, gnarly.
This is little swastika. This is
Oh, that's fucking rad. I've never seen anything like that. That's fucking
He would go
crazy.
drill in with a fucking 45 mag and sometimes even bigger. And he's like, he goes, I need a machine set up ready to combat that shit.
That's crazy.
That's fucking wild.
So we'd
Yeah,
build him all his
man.
custom shit. It was gnarly.
That's wild.
Gnarly.
I think it's cool that you guys did that for the people you sponsor, because nowadays it's like, here's a discount code, you get 10% off.
Right.
Better
What
make
is
some
that?
content for us, That's fucking cool, man.
I
I
mean,
love
it
the
just goes
values of
back
it.
into like the whole doing it for integrity thing. You know what I mean? Trying to, and I feel like I get this from you guys, that you just want to give, as much as you can. Because I feel nothing but gratitude from you guys when you talk about where you came from and stuff. And I feel like a lot of times it gets portrayed as just rough and that was it, you know what I mean? But magic seems to be like just the word for it, right? And of course we've been talking about, can't possibly understand to the full maximum, but it just seems like so out of the realm of like what is possible right now.
Yeah, well, you know what? No one here in this era, it's rare that you find people with a work ethic. Back then, if you wanted it, you had to show that you had a work ethic. You're not going to go into a shop and just sit there and go, I got to leave now, I'm so tired. This guy working for me one day, he comes, I can't finish the job. I have so much anxiety. I go, how about this? Why don't you go downstairs, get a box and put your shit in it, because I'm going to finish your fucking job for you. I got no time for cowards or pussies. You know what I mean? So you had to develop a work ethic. Otherwise, you're not going to be part of it, and you had to earn it. We always believed, you earn your position as an apprentice or whatever the fuck it's going to be. You don't just, send an email. Are you looking for apprentices? Because no one's looking for apprentices, least of all us. Why would I want to teach you the secrets that we've earned in the time we've been tattooing and teach you how you can make money in different parts of the world with your little suitcase, how to get into this place without fucking, but having to go through work permit and who to talk to, where to source products in different places. So you're going to, how do you say this in Spanish when you want to tattoo in Mexico? Different shit. Why would I want to teach you when the first thing I need to know from you is who the fuck you are? How is this conversation over internet going to show me that you have integrity and character and honesty and loyalty? Show me your I don't give a fuck about your drawings. Your drawings don't reflect how you tattoo. Show me something you created on Procreate. Guess what? Thanks for the false advertising, but you could never shade as smooth as that fucking computer-generated shading. And I'd like to see you do the line weights that you got in here, because it looks to me like you got a couple singles in there, right? So, it's about everything that has to do with learning correctly, learning to have a work ethic to start off with. Nothing's too far away if you want to get it. If you want to get it, you're going to learn that and you're going to apply yourself. Oh, it's too hard for me and I didn't think it was important to learn. You know what? Get lost. You know, I tell people like that. Well, I didn't know that it was important to learn about this stuff, and I can sort of beat it. I don't have time for people like that in my place, in my shop, or when we're together, right?
Yeah, I can see this front right here. It lays completely flat, but you got a little bit of a gap.
You have to have a gap in the back.
Gotcha.
The reason why you have to have a gap in the back, there's two reasons. So when you look at an electromagnetic machine, you pull down the armature bar, see how you got it held down? Hold it all the way down. You need to have the yoke or the bottom of the frame parallel with the armature bar when it comes down. It has to hit flat on the front coil. You should always have a space between the back coil and the armature bar. The reason being that the magnetic field is not that big of a magnetic field. You can turn up the magnetic field. When you turn up the magnetic field, okay, let's just start really quick. Say you have a ball of wire. They call it magnet wire or magnetic copper wire. You run current through that wire. It's going to make two things. It's going to make a magnetic field and it's going to create heat. You want to avoid the heat for several reasons because this wire has an insulation on the outside of it, okay? It should be insulated wire. The reason being, if any of that wire if it is not insulated or you get a nick in that wire and it touches anything steel on the frame or any metal parts on the frame, it's going to short, it's not going to run, right? So what the goal is to have a machine that you could run low voltage so that you could control incrementally the impact of the machine. Secondly, you're running at lower volts, so you're causing less heat. And the less heat also means that your capacitor is not going to explode, right? So you have a small space in the back because if the rear, when the back of the armature bar, if the back of the armature bar hits on the first coil, you lose all your impact there. So you get like a double hit, like that.
Gotcha.
You lose all your impact on the front. What do you got going in the front? Nothing. You lost it all in the back. That's the second
Gotcha.
reason. So you want to have it as close to the coil as you can so that rear coil, the magnetic field of that coil is what pulls the front of the armature bar into the range of the magnetic field of the front coil. See what I'm saying?
I do.
You have to have that space. So what we decided, we're like, okay, we got the patent on the square coil. The reason why we had a square coil originally, and this isn't the square coil, this was an evolution of it, was that there is more mass on a square coil than there is on a round coil. So it's going to pull more on a larger section of magnetic field on that armature bar.
The surface area.
On the surface area. So you got a larger surface magnet. Second evolution on that. It wasn't just the fact that coil was square. And there was other things that went along with it too. And you can read if you want to read the abstract and the patent. But there was another one that we did. It looked like a V-twin, like a Harley motor. So the coils were angled like this. Well, why would that be? Well, first of all, you're moving the magnetic field forward. But when you take a square post and you cut it at an angle, the surface becomes a rectangle. We got rectangular surface on the top of these coils. So that made a big difference too. In fact, some of the material, when we were running, we decided, okay, well, let's learn a little bit more about the metal. So standard would be iron. It's hard to source iron. You can get a form of iron which is called ductile iron, but inevitably, all this iron has to have carbon in it at some point, because you can't just use standard iron in certain types of applications. You have to add that carbon, and as you add carbon to the iron, you get closer to stainless. Now, what happens? So if you look at the molecules that are inside a piece of iron, you'd see all these little balls like Fe. That's Fe would be the name for the material for iron. You start adding carbon. So now you got carbon molecules in there. The more carbon you add, the less magnetic properties that material is going to have. No one stops to think about this. They just go, give me this and give me that. But there's ways you can make everything better. So when the magnetic field goes into the wire that's wound around the coils, up, down, up, down. It creates a magnetic field, which permeates the core of that coil. When it hits the core of that coil, these little molecules stand up on end, directing the magnetic field where you want it to go. This is why we have to have a core, to direct the magnetic field created by the wire. See what I'm saying? So that started to be our next focus. How can we direct the magnetic field and get these machines to run at lower voltage so that we don't compromise the material that is on the machine, being the insulation around the wire, the insulation that covers the outside of the coils, which is the heat shrink, the heat that might be coming through the machine because of impact, because of running it high, making the rear coil not have to work as hard because it's the first one that pulls. You got a 20 gauge tempered spring on the back. What the fuck are you doing with that? Let's think about this. You have a junkyard. Okay, so you got this junkyard and you crush cars and you got to move the cars and put them in a pile of the ones that are going to be recycled. So how do you do it with an electromagnet? So when they sell these electromagnets, they say, okay, electromagnet ABC can pick up to 2,000 pounds when fully activated, which means that it can pick up less weight when it's less activated. So what are they doing? They're turning up the magnetic field. They're increasing it by increasing the voltage of the electronic part of the magnet. They increase it. So what happens is now it's working and it's pulling. It's going to have a hell of a time if it doesn't have the capacity to pick up a 2,000 pound car if this thing can only hold 1,500 pounds. See what I'm saying? So you turn it up and it's going to start heating up because it's working extra hard. That's what happens with the rear coil or both coils. If it's dealing with a spring that it's having trouble pulling. So you can translate the resistance of the rear spring into potentially weight. So I don't know how many pounds it would equal. We had sort of done an estimate. It could be like maybe 2 pounds or 3 pounds maybe, depending on the gauge of the spring that you're using. So our goal was, let's figure out how to direct the magnetic field to the points on the armature bar, because it's the only moving part, to make it do what we need it to do for the good of the whole of the machine, the survival of the machine, for the components to function at 100%, and to achieve the techniques that we want to achieve. After that came another one. The armature bar looked like a bullet. This was in 2000. It looked like a bullet. It was round. It sat on a coil surface. The top of the coil looked like a U-pipe, like a half pipe. So this armature bar would sit perfectly right in there, and the magnetic field was coming up around the outsides of that armature bar. You follow what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Say this is your armature bar. It would come down and it would sit in a pipe like this. It would line up perfectly. You never would have to worry about, oh, the needle bar is not going through the center, because it would always go through the center. See? That was next, and that was in 2000. And all along, in the beginning, we started doing castings. First, we were just doing, angle iron. We'd cut these different shapes, and then we started moving on to castings. We were doing silicon bronze for a while. We were doing brass for a while. We even tried copper for a while. We ended up going to, we started doing machining parts. As we started realizing the potential that these coils had and the specifications of the frames, we started thinking, okay, what's next? And the way it evolved was ridiculous. We started coming up with different coil core configurations which would direct the magnetic field. A friend of ours, James Adams, who was an old school tattooer, he knew Milton Zeiss and all these old guys. Don Nolan, he knew all these guys, man. He's like, I had designed a coil core that looked like 2 triangles. He goes, I called it the Black Widow. So that the surface of the cores were larger than the 3/8 inch center of the core. They were triangles that were sitting on top, and the points would almost go point to point. So you had a magnet that went from the top of the hourglass to the bottom of the hourglass that went across and covered a big portion of the armature bar. We're like, fuck, we made them just for him. And the machines that sold that had worked, the Black Widow frame and machine, we give him royalties for that. Giving credit where credit was due. Plugged him and tagged him in our second edition of our book. That was the next evolution. We move on past that. We started thinking, frameless machine. All along we're using aluminum, okay? Now think about this. you can't rest two electromagnetic coils on an aluminum base. You can't. You got to join those together with a yoke, which is also steel of the same equivalent. It ideally should be of the same equivalent rating as the cores are. So if you're using 1010 steel, you're going to use a 1010 yoke. Or you could even use anything of less, maybe 1005 steel, something like that. Or whatever. If you can get iron, you could do that too. So we started thinking, let's move on to other materials. And let's start doing a frameless machine. Someone had showed us a frameless machine which had a frame which was bolted onto the tops of the coils. We're like, the functionality of that, plus it was already done, we're going to do it a little bit different. And what you saw here was two subframes mounted on the coils as the actual support. And the base of these, the original was a V3 machine. The V3 was gnarly. This V3 machine, aluminum base, aluminum upper support frame, which screwed onto the sides of the coil cores, and with included an upper binding post. But it was already machined to a tolerance which would allow an armature bar to come down, fully hit the front. You couldn't shim the cores. You can't shim the coils because shimming the coil, you couldn't shim them. What you had to adjust was the height of the saddle in relation to the top of the coil. Follow what I'm saying? We're going straight out from the rear spring across the top of the armature bar as a straight line before you put the bend in it. So when you got the bend in it, and this is the V3 right here. So I would pull this down, and I have to have the space in the back. Now, if the front coil was too high, you'd have an issue, and that would be because of the drilling, which was going to the side of the top of the core. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So what that would do is it would place the saddle in a position to where it would come down, and it might, if this was drilled too low, this would come down lower. Instead of hitting flat and be parallel, it would come down at a forward angle. If the drilling was too high would be down. If it was too low, this would hit up high. So the goal was to achieve parallelism with the machining and the drilling with the specifications inside of the frame.
Man,
precision right
that's
there.
crazy.
You have to have the precision.
Yeah.
So we thought, in combination, the base and the yoke, the tops of the cores, and the protruding front of this particular core, we've got everything covered. We've got the magnetic field all the way in the back, pulling down as this is the first coil to pull. We've got two capacitors, allowing this thing to function at a whole volt or a volt and a half lower than it normally would, with the appropriate layers and gauges of wire that we decided that we're going to use on here. This is gnarly.
Fuck yeah.
Fuck yeah, it is, man. Dude,
Fuck
like, holy
yeah.
shit.
I know,
High carbon
dude.
springs. We're not using
Blue tempered
springs.
shit.
We'll explain that in a second. And he can talk about that. But
One of the things about what we were doing also was like, well, you know what? These people can talk about their machines, this and that, and how great it is. But then next thing you know, everybody's bootlegging them. Like we've seen Aaron Kane machines that came out of China because you can make a casting, but no one's going to go through the trouble of programming to make these.
Yeah.
We've never seen a bootleg Godoy machine ever, not one.
That's
because
fucking cool.
That's cool because to make this, it's like, do I want to measure this shit? Do I really want to go through and make this fucking thing?
Yeah. Well, someone with that quick mindset of making a buck and just getting these out there to sell them, they don't give a fuck. They want the easiest option.
it wouldn't be cost effective for them.
Yeah.
No, not at
Right.
all.
We were doing other materials too. Like we had gone to the anniversary of the first ever tattoo convention, and there was a guy named Ron Ackers there. Ron Ackers is an Old English tattooer, early generation tattooer. And Ron Ackers was making, his brass frames and his brass machines, but he was making machines out of wood. People are thinking, how can you do that? How do you make it out of wood? Well, simple recipe. You have a yoke on the bottom, because you have to have a magnetic bridge between the two coils because the frame's not going to do that. They're not going to run in unison without that yoke, or they're not going to run well. So we started considering other materials. I mean, we had already done aluminum. So what we were going to do with the V3 was this. Because everything on here, the only parts that realistically are magnetic is this whole circle here. So you have the upper armature, the armature bar, you got the coil cores, you got the yoke, and the other coil core. That's the only magnetic parts that have to be on the machine. You don't need anything else to magnetize. You don't need the springs to magnetize. You don't need the screws to magnetize. So we thought, you know what? Let's make this thing and isolate the electronic components so the magnetic field does not get absorbed into useless parts like screws. We got aluminum screws. We were doing nylon screws. We were making frames not only just out of aluminum, we were doing phenolics. We were doing glass injected polycarbonate, G10, bulletproof stuff, gnarly shit that was hard to machine and really unique stuff because what we needed was rigidity. We tried different forms of ABS. We tried different types of polycarbonate that were not glass injected. We tried different types of nylon, glass injected nylon, gnarly shit. And, for us, aluminum was the most cost effective, but we were doing the other stuff just to see. But could you see what we were trying to do? We're not going to waste a magnetic field because testing magnetic field is the most important part of the whole thing. So in combination with everything, so you've got your appropriate layers of wire that have enough magnetic field produced by the current passing through it to saturate that whole core or the shape of that core and to be able to direct it comfortably with a set of springs on the machine that are going to allow the rear coil to pull comfortably and the machine to have enough flexibility and versatility to reach all those gradations and everything that you have in between when it reaches its full saturation, full stroke, and control the impact from that softness to hard enough to where you can run larger groupings. Now we can talk about springs.
But wait, first thing, it's not how complicated it is. How complicated is you got one moving part? How complex is that? It's fucking not, right? This is the only thing you give a fuck about is the fulcrum. This is the moving point where the spring and the saddle right there, that edge. This is all you got to worry about. If you got everything else dialed in, is this that complex to set tension? No, but it's complex. The function will be ruined if you don't have the right shit. So if you are getting springs that are blue tempered steel.
But we could talk about the beginning of that because this material is a low-grade steel. It's a low-grade steel that used to be used as strapping steel. So when you'd see bundles of 2x4s or whatever they're bundling, they would use this steel to bundle it. Later on, you've seen those they almost look like woven fiber types of yellow plastics that are stuck together with an adhesive. These weren't. That's what the root of all this stuff was. It was a low carbon steel that was heat treated, thermically treated, so that it would give it more rigidity. Now there was a problem with this because this low grade steel, when people are running their machines and they break a rear spring and they go, fuck, my spring broke. They don't understand why the spring broke. Is because that spring material is brittle. You could take a pair of needle nose on the point of one of those springs, grab it back in the section that cuts and just go and snap that thing all the way down, right? So now, if you wanted to play a little trick on a coworker, you could go up to his machine, grab it right behind the bend in the front spring and bend it down and detune his machine. You can actually bend that front spring down so that's not even touching the contact screw, and the guy's ignorant enough to know that there's something wrong with his machine, but what? It's not even touching the contact screw. So how can you make this thing function? It's a low-grade material.
With no memory.
With no memory.
It doesn't stay.
You can have a gauge of that. Say you're talking about a 16, for example. A 16 gauge heat-treated spring, and different companies who manufacture these springs don't really have necessarily the same recipe for how long they're going to heat it to make it more rigid. So you might buy 16 over here and another one over here, and they're completely different because this one might have a little bit more carbon than this one, and this guy could only get like some lower grade carbon, like 1010 or some 1005, or this might even just be, who knows what it is, right? But they treat these things. So now the only thing that you have coming out of that gauge is just the thickness. That's the only information that you get. You don't understand the flexibility of that material. So when you're looking at catalogs, Chinese manufacturers, any other tattoo supplier, they got lists and lists of springs with all different kinds of silly, funny little shapes, and you got a silver material, which you don't even know what the fuck that is. Your main interest is the flexibility because that helps to control the movement and it also controls the impact. It controls the movement. That's the most important part. And the second most important part, not be equally as important, I would say, let me redact that, it's equally as important, is the pull of the rear from the rear coil. And if it has a hell of a time pulling that armature bar down because the rear spring is a 20 or feels like a 20, it might be a 16 that's been treated and it feels like something hard, you're going to get heat and you're going to get problems and you're going to get exploding capacitors. See what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So it's very important to consider the material.
To kind of switch it up a little bit here, I am curious how you guys feel about, and I already probably know how you guys feel about it, but with how the government is trying to get into things and help regulate.
Well, let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing: if you don't know
Can of worms have been opened.
if you don't know who you are and what you are,
Yeah.
and you're a sucker for any kind of form of somebody telling you what to believe and what to do, then you got no business being called a fucking man. You got none. Because what people have done is registered away their right to not just property, but intellectual property and rights. Rights are property. You're going to sign away your business. You're going to say, I'm going to come up with a cool name for my business, right? I'm going to call it Ladybug Studio. Okay, cool. Ladybug Studio. In order to operate, I'm going to go register my studio as a tattoo shop to the city. Then you're like, cool, I can't wait to get my business license. You know what you just did? You just asked the city permission to do something that you should be able to do on your own without regulation. Now you gave them the right to say, I'm going to come in and I'm going to get you for a registration fee every month or every year, whatever it might be. You're going to have to succumb to terms and conditions that are written up in their logbook, their law book, whatever it might be, and you're going to register this business every fucking year, and you're going to bow down to the health department guy coming in to regulate you, but he doesn't tattoo, right?
Half the time they're asking us for information and knowledge on things.
Right. Why? So that they can burn other people. But imagine if we had our own private membership association. No, we write our own certificates here. You can get lost. We don't need your regulation here. We don't need you to tell us that we're doing business and we're going to be paying taxes to the franchise tax board, the Ohio State Tax Board, and then on top of that to pay federal taxes. No, we only use the dollar bill out of convenience. We don't like the debt that it stands for. I'm an obligated debtor to the dollar bill. I got equitable use only of the dollar bill because the dollar bill says who owns that dollar bill, who's got the first lien on the fucking dollar bill. The United States. It says it on the bill. It's registered. It's serialized. So that means that when you pay for something with that dollar bill, you know whose property it really is? The United States corporation. Right?
It's like if you're going to Mexico and they said, here, buy me a sombrero. What did you do with my money? What did you buy? Let's see the receipt and the proof that you bought me my hat. That's what it is. It's their property.
Right.
They got the title.
So this is how we feel about anybody coming in to regulate something that you should be regulating yourself. Not for it. Not in any way, shape, or form. We don't register our cars. We don't drive with driver's licenses unless if we're driving, we drive with our fucking passport cards. We want out of this system in every fucking way possible. It's a slave system. And why would we put our talents and our arts on the line too? I'm going to fucking sacrifice. You're going to regulate my talent? And I know everything that there is to know. I can regulate who I tattoo. I can regulate how I put the tattoo stencil on. I can regulate how I fucking control the cross-contamination prevention on the guy, and I can send him off with a perfect tattoo.
Yeah, and who put you in a beneficial position to benefit from my labor? I should be the beneficiary of my own labor. Why is the government going to be, or the city, or business license department going to benefit from my labor? Make me the trustee to make sure that they're the beneficiary or receiving benefits from my work?
Fuck that.
Yeah.
So you can see where we stand.
Yeah.
That's why we were saying, imagine private member association. Hey, Steve and Art, look, man, the state is up my ass. Okay, well, how about this? Why don't you rescind the contract, terminate all signatures, operate as a PMA, put a sign on the window, only members allowed, and you have it in your terms and conditions in your contract. It's like a trust agreement that says no city worker is allowed to get tattooed by us unless he's a private member and he co-signs all the terms and conditions that are signed on this fucking document. It's like the people who wrote the Constitution. People aren't bound by the Constitution. People think they got constitutional rights. They don't have shit. They're a citizen slave, right? You have to understand the difference. It's the same thing with us. If you want to regulate yourself, well, we have a contract between each other. So me and Art and Brian, we got a contract. And then we bring you guys in on the contract. We all have our terms and conditions on our contract. It's a trust indenture. Same with the PMA. It's the same thing. City worker comes, hey, man, you didn't pay your thing. Oh, yeah, really? Well, I don't see your name as a signatory to this contract. You're not a party to it. So how about beat it, you third-party interloper? You get nothing from me. I'm running this as a PMA. Get the fuck out of here. Even the government couldn't regulate. Oh, government, you're coming in because I'm using the taxable dollar? Your fucking military war script? You're going to tax me for use of your dollar. Well, give me my other option since you say it's against the law to trade with gold and silver. How about that? Give me an option. If not, I'm using this out of convenience, out of the law of convenience. You know, I'm doing this out of convenience, and I don't co-sign what this dollar stands for. See, so even down to that, what regulates you? Are you going to regulate you, or are you going to let someone regulate you? You going to let the CPS come and take your kid because you fucking registered him at birth? Fuck no. Then why would you let him take your fucking business? It's the same thing as your fucking baby. It's the same shit. Your car, you bought that fucking car with fiat currency, with the fucking military war script. It's for the United States. Sorry, I don't want your registration. I'm going to fucking write on the back, notice of liability. What's it say on the back of your fucking certificate of title? Transfer of liability. I'm going to transfer the fucking liability back to the DMV over this fucking paper title so they can pay all the fucking registration fees on it, and I fucking slide out because I'm a trust. I'm a PMA. I operate as a PMA. It's private. It's got nothing to do with them. I rescinded my signature because I'm not going to be part of a fucking fraudulent contract.
It goes back to contract because it doesn't matter what jurisdiction you're in. Even if you were pulled into court, sorry, you know what? I got this contract between me and him. What gives this guy the right? He doesn't appear in the contract. Why is he trying to interfere with my, ability to contract? Whether it's private or public, it doesn't matter. A contract is a contract, and this is what they're going to want to see. You create a contract between you and your client. Who can come and interrupt that client? Sorry, your name's not on here. Who the fuck are you?
Yeah, I've never heard of any of this, honestly. Yeah.
Yeah, but
I'm
it's
sure
real.
Yeah.
It's fucking real shit. So you have your terms and conditions. Say, okay, look, if you got a dispute, look, we handle it man to man. Sorry, man, I fucked up your tattoo. What do you want me to do? If I can go pay for laser, no problem. Or how about this? You fucking pissed and shit all over my fucking chair when I tattooed you. How about you come in and you clean up and mop every fucking day for the next week, and we call it even. We give a handshake, and that's that. You don't need someone to come in, not even the courts, to tell you what you're doing wrong.
Yeah.
But I'm going to succumb to your fucking jurisdiction. Fuck you. So no one's going to come in and tell us what to do. Hey, man, you need to use disposable needles and put a plastic wrap on there with an adhesive that makes people have allergies. Sorry, Ohio, I know better than to do this. I got 40 years tattooing. I'm going to fucking autoclave my stuff because guess what? Hospitals do it.
Yeah.
You don't go in there and fucking tell them shit. I regulate my own shit. Says it on my fucking trust indenture.
Yeah.
My PMA contract. Sorry, get out. That's it. So that's how we feel about everything. Everything. You're going to come in and tell me that you make a better needle than me, but you don't tattoo? You tell me that you're selling great machines, but you are a fat woman that sits at home with your kids sucking your tit and you're cooking dinner for your fat husband, but you represent Mickey Sharps? And you're sitting here at a tattoo convention in fucking Italy with 4 fat ladies, and Mickey Sharps has got these ladies out there. She says, it's a liner. And we're like,
How the fuck do you know?
do you know? Do you fucking have one tattoo? I don't think so.
Yeah.
You don't know shit about fucking diagnosing a problem on the fucking machine. You tell me what size capacitor's on there and what the fuck capacitance even means, asshole. You fucking tell me you're going to regulate shit. So as you can tell, we don't like government. We don't like the system. We don't like commies. We don't like people that fucking bend over and take it in their asses because that somebody is going to tell them what to do. You're going to tell me how to regulate my language? You're going to tell me how to regulate my tattooing? You're going to tell me how to regulate my bloodborne pathogen certification course? All that shit, fuck you. I'm self-sufficient. I'm going to write my own stuff. And you don't like it, you can stick it in your ass because it's not your industry.
Yeah.
So that's how we feel about it. with everything, man, everything. It's not like we're trying to live off the grid.
Sure.
We're going to live in here. We're like the modern conveniences. We like them. We like it all, right? But I don't like people telling me what to do. Like if someone came in and told you what to do in your shop, you know what? Guess what? It was my intellectual property. I thought up the cool name, Thousand Oaks. It's my fucking shop. But somebody's making money off my shop. IRS is taxing me. The state's taxing me. Wait a minute. Whose intellectual property is it now? We got patents. We fucking register. Register means Regis. Regis means king. That means you put it in the registry of the king. The king's registry. Your intellectual property, feel like assholes for doing it. Now what we need to do is claim that as our collateral. You guys are we're washing our hands of the U.S. and their bullshit. Anywhere in their bullshit. You reclaim your
when we're talking
right.
U.S., we're talking U.S. Corp.
U.S. Corp.
Yeah.
All the commercial aspect of it.
Gotcha.
Every country that you think is a country is a corporation. They're all for profit, operating under the SEC, the Securities and Exchange Commission.
And guess who shoulders the national debt? All of us.
Right.
This is why all the prices went up on everything, because they got to pay the investors in the bankrupt corporation. We shoulder the debt. That's why all the interest rates go up. Everything goes up.
So, but that's to get into something that's like outside of the scope. But we're talking about regulation. When are you not regulated? You go out on the street when we leave here, and you look at every license plate, and imagine that that's your business. You got a license plate for your business. It's called your business license, your business license registration. It's a numbered, serialized, negotiable instrument. It doesn't belong to you. You just get equitable use of your business. You get the benefit of operating your business under their terms and conditions. You follow what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
So when you think about, do you ask the Godoys, how do they feel about regulation? No, we don't fucking like it.
Yeah.
We don't like none of it.
Yeah.
Not one fucking bit of it.
Yeah.
You know? So whatever we got to do to feel free to act how we want, say what we want, and not be regulated. We don't care about other people's opinions, because you know what? How many people have the balls to say something like that?
Not many. Not many.
None.
We're already regulated, self-regulated.
How many people are going to bite their tongue when they really do feel the same inside? Because they're all commies. I'm going to be a collectivist today. I'm going to wear my mask, even though I'm anti, but I'm going to wear my mask today because I really care what other people think. We never gave a fuck about what other people think. And maybe it's a strength in being twins, because we always co-sign each other's bullshit. Whether it's fucked up or not, we co-sign it all the way, you know? And so that's why we got this, like, we feel really great when we're together, because we're like one giant entity. We feel like we're like
if you were in the other room and heard us talking, it sounds like one guy talking to himself.
he's crazy. The same shit. So if there's anything to get out of this interview, because people will probably go, 15 minutes and they didn't fucking talk about Instagram followers. 15 minutes and they didn't talk about how to find them on Facebook. And then they're like, okay, well, what do you want to get out of this here? Well, let's go over the whole thing. Self-sufficient, give credit where credit is due, pat yourself on the back because you wanted to learn something new that was attached to somewhere in historical past that brought you to where you are now. What brought you to the point where you are now? It's not from learning from anybody that taught you anything. In the end, we're all self-sufficient, and we're all self-taught. Really, in the end, is what it boils down to. No one picked up your hand and said, here you go, man. Move your hand like this, you know? Yeah. No one taught you that. But let's go back a little deeper. We want to keep this industry as our own, right? And even if you did it for yourself, in the sense of pride, like, man, I learned how to make needles. What did those guys feel back when they started putting needle groupings together? Like, Sailor Jerry or any of those other guys? Fuck. That's something to be proud of, Machine function, this is where the thing started, when it was the skin scribe by Thomas Edison. What did he do? He took a doorbell, figured out how to fucking put this big contraption together and do other shit. So it's not that you're learning old school anything. Anything's as current as you are. You bring it into the fucking present, people are like, look at this guy's only 28. He fucking rips with his rotary. But you see what he can fucking do. Coils. Have you heard of this guy, Endry Stymist?
I haven't.
Gnarly.
I haven't.
For a minute there, I had to go get a job in Hollywood again because I was working at this private shop with this guy, Ryan Needles. He's a ripper. He's a really great tattooer.
He's rad.
It was a little slow. So when I went and got work in Hollywood off Santa Monica Boulevard at this place called Honorable Society. And I thought, there's something about this shop, I don't know. It's kind of old-timey looking. It's cool. And they had a couple good artists. I meet this kid, this guy, Endry Stymus. You got to look him up.
Hendry Stymus.
Yeah, I'll Stymest, E-S-T.
Stymest.
Endry is, he's a young Italian guy. It's not even his real name. But I think what he's doing, he's over here, working, under the table sort of thing. And Endry will do little pictures this big, tattoos, realistic, so radical. And I got to be friends with him, and he's not an ego guy, not by any means, right? And then, so Endry was using rotaries, and he goes, hey, in his Italian accent, hey, Steve, can I look at your machine? I'm like, yeah, man. And so we're talking and all this shit. And then I saw recently he picked up coils. He's doing the same great shit with coils that he does with his rotaries. And most people that do rotaries these days, they don't even want to touch a coil. They think it's antique and outdated. But it's not. There's nothing antique or outdated. It was the convenience that these dick sucks can go, I'm going to put a drop of oil in there and I'm good because I don't want to have to bother with trying to figure out how to tune my shit. This is what the whole thing was, the convenience. It's not that one thing's better than the other. If you know how to use your tools, fucking anything rips. But look up this guy, Endry Stymus. He's fucking rad. So fucking good. It was very, very impressive. Hasn't been tattooing all that long. Man.
I when I used my coils, I did a lot of like neo-traditional solid color packing. I called it neo-believable because it had realistic features, but it was solid outlines. And I always enjoyed using them. But again, the convenience, and that was the main reason I switched,
Yeah.
I need 6 machines versus 1 with cartridges, But I could definitely see a piece of that craftsmanship going out the window with it, I still have all my coil machines. I still have them all right over there in a drawer here, but haven't used them in years, But I'm feeling inspired,
When you understand them,
sure.
When you understand them, and what you can get out of them, what you can wring out of them, you're gonna be like, motherfucker, this is what I've been missing out. But the key is to understand the function.
Yeah.
So, look at this. Now this is Endry doing, this is Prismacolor pencil, okay? Now look at this fucking thing.
Yeah.
Okay? Now, you ask people, oh, I'm a fine artist and I do my fucking little fucking painting, my little watercolor. Now look at this guy's jewel. Look at this thing. This is tattoo. You tell me that guy doesn't apply his artistic ability to tattoo. Look at this fucking thing.
Looks like he's rocking a Dan Cuban right there.
That guy can use anything. Look at this thing.
So
Dan
gnarly.
Cuban machines
Remember
are
the little
dope.
diamonds?
Yeah. So this goes to show that there's nothing old-timey or outdated about using coils or anything like that. If you can tattoo with that, you put that under in your fucking arsenal.
Well, and just the nostalgia of walking in here and hearing them. We had a guest artist
Just
a
to
couple
hear it.
months ago, and he still rocked Soba's coil machines, and it felt like a tattoo shop again, just
Man.
hearing it buzzing. And I remember watching this Philip Blue video where he was showcasing his shop, and when he walked in the door, and he had his artists up on like a platform, and there was like 6 of them, and the machines were just harmonizing perfectly. It fucking sounds beautiful, And I talk about that quite a bit, that definitely missed that,
Question for Brian: when you went to Evergreen, did you hear one coil, maybe 2? See,
Which is crazy.
Yeah.
With 200 artists in the convention center.
and it's quiet as a fucking I don't know,
Yeah.
library.
Library.
You can hear
Yeah.
pins drop.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Because
Yeah,
I went
that's
to the year
wild.
before and I just didn't hear. I saw one, and I said, "Hey man, that's a great sound." He looked at me like I'm some sort of asshole. I'm like,